Hey, welcome to Hidden Gems. This is a first for the show. I've never done anything like this. Our first double feature where I review two movies and they're related, obviously, and we'll see how it goes from there. So, without further ado, this is our Tetsuo double feature. Hi. Hi, how are you? Is he going to be here the whole show? If you don't need me, I'll just take off. Yeah, but... Okay, I'm obviously not valuable to you, so I'll just hit the road. Thank you. I can do this thing. Not too bad. This is so hard. Alright, Tetsuo the Iron Man is the first movie in this double feature, and it's a 1989 film by Shinya Tsukamoto, a Japanese film. There's no point in really trying to pronounce the characters' names, because I'll just butcher them, the actors' names, that is, and then, you know, the characters, they're just named man, woman, who cares. Alright, so the plot is pretty much the craziest thing I've ever seen. It opens up with a man, he's known as the metal fetishist. He's played by Tsukamoto, the director, and he has this fetish for cutting open his body and shoving pieces of metal inside the wound. So in the opening scene, he cuts open his thigh and he shoves a piece of rebar into it, and he freaks out because there's all these maggots crawling around the wound, and he runs out into the street and he gets hit by a car driven by the main character and his wife. They're just known as the man and the woman. So they don't know what to do. They go and dump his body in the woods, and for some reason it turns them on and they decide to have sex right there as this guy's dying right in front of them. So the metal fetishist slowly dies, and he's like kind of reborn with this ability to spread rust and create rust. It works in the story. It's a lot cooler than I'm explaining it as. But he also infects the man with the uncontrollable ability to sort of turn into iron. You know, his body's just slowly being corrupted into metal, and he can't stop it. The majority of the movie centers around this man as he is slowly turning into this metal super being, this freak, and is coming to grips with the situation and the effect that it's having on his marriage, on his relationship. It's about as crazy as it gets, and insane. So I can't really put it into a specific genre. Someone likened it to if you let David Lynch loose in a junkyard. This is kind of the product of that. So it's insane and bizarre and really impossible to turn away from. I had a lot of fun watching it, as crazy as it sounds. Alright, I'll admit I actually had to go on IMDb to sort of get a translation for what actually happened in the story. I didn't know what was going on, hardly at all. But the amazing thing about this film is that the story is probably the least important part of it all. It's all purely about the visual aspect of the film, and more of an exploration on how camera shots, fast editing, and sound can all kind of work together to influence your mind, to influence you psychologically. I felt really kind of disturbed by this film, and I don't really know why. It was just really difficult to pull away from, but there was just a lot of really disturbing imagery popping up on the screen. But there's some really great use of stop motion, and it has a really cool industrial feeling throughout the whole thing. There's a lot of music that's just akin to somebody beating the crap out of a metal garbage can is basically what most of it's comprised of. It's a really, really cool art house film, but obviously it's not for everybody. If you crave, you know, purpose to your movie watching experience, you crave narrative structure, you're probably not going to enjoy this. You're going to be sitting in the corner crying, wondering why you spent the last hour of your life watching this. That's another thing with this movie. It comes in at a runtime of like 67 minutes, and okay, you think that's pretty short, but all in all, I never felt slighted at all after watching the movie. Like, man, that should have been another half hour at least. Um, it kind of works in the movie's favor because it stops before it has a chance to get old, to get predictable, to get boring. So there's so much that it bombards you with visually. There's a lot to take away and just absorb after you're done watching the movie. Alright, I could talk about the Iron Man for a while, but I want to make this a manageable length, and it's a double feature. So, here we go. Tsukamoto followed up the Iron Man, Tetsuo the Iron Man, with a sequel in like '92 called Body Hammer, I believe, and it's not available on Netflix, instant streaming at least. But it was more of a reboot than I think a sequel, and that's along the lines of the next film that he made, The Bullet Man, Tetsuo the Bullet Man, in 2009. It's more of a reboot. It's very similar story to the first one, but not really. So it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot, it's just kind of a reimagining of his original movie. It stars Eric Bosik, who plays the main character Anthony, and Akiko Mono, who plays Yuri, his wife, and Tsukamoto himself plays the antagonist, who's just called the Man. Really, the Bullet Man is kind of just an attempt to reach a wider audience by Americanizing it. He has an American for the main character. English is the spoken language. Anyway, the plot is very similar to the Iron Man, but it has much more emphasis on narrative, which is really its biggest fault. Because the great part about these movies is that they aren't narrative driven. They're just, crazy visual after visual. Anthony, the main character, is walking down the road with his son, his 8-year-old son, and he just he lets him walk out ahead of him. Go ahead, go out into this dark tunnel. You'll be fine. And a car comes and runs the kid over. Similar to the Iron Man, car. Oh, get it? The car very purposefully hits the kid too. It's not like it just accidentally hits him. It drives past both of them, and then it backs up into the kid. The intent of the driver of the car was to awaken this beast, this monster inside of Anthony. So he hulks out basically throughout the rest of the movie, because the grief that he experiences, the sorrow from this incident, awakens that monster, and turns him into this walking weapon, this sort of metal monster similar to the first movie, but has the ability to shoot projectiles and stuff. He's kind of like a gun in some regards. So the rest of the movie, his body is slowly transforming. It's very, very similar to the Hulk story. The monster sort of symbolizes anger and his struggles with it. He's constantly trying to suppress it, but really with this movie he never gets the option to change back. It's just progressively getting worse throughout the whole movie. But anyway, as you can imagine, there's a secret organization trying to capture him and do tests on him, experiments, all that stuff. It's just kind of the main shtick that you hear a lot. There's a lot of interesting and erratic camera movements and stuff, and it has that same sort of industrial, steampunk design and feeling to it, but it just doesn't have the same draw that the first movie had, because there's something about the sort of amateur production values in that first movie that just kind of made it more appealing, but it all kind of adds up to a very generic science fiction film, whereas the first one was more of an art house piece. Something that was really just kind of annoying in the film were the audio levels. a lot of the dialogue was spoken really whisper quiet. Like, when we talk really softly, it's so much more emotional and impactful. And then, this music is really industrial. Someone beating the crap out of a garbage can would come in, and it would freaking blow out my eardrums, and that was annoying. Made me irritable. It ruined my day. It didn't, but The Bullet Man is an average film. There's really nothing special about it. The story is okay. The Bullet Man suit is freaking phenomenal. There's not a whole lot of CG in the movie. With the bigger budget, they really didn't try to shift their focus to CG. There's a lot of just sort of old-fashioned camera tricks and stuff. The original movie did it so much better than this, and he, for the most part, abandoned what made the series work to begin with. Tetsuo the Bullet Man is a thumbs sideways. You know, it's not great, it's not terrible. It's just kind of an average, generic science fiction film with a little bit of the heart of the first movie. But that first movie is definitely a thumbs way up. So, see that if you can find it. It's not on Netflix anymore. Instant streaming, so it's too bad. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you want to watch more, go to MediasideProductions.com. It is right there on the screen. Man, that's convenient, isn't it? Open up a tab right now as I'm talking. Type it in. Go. Enjoy. Feast your eyes on its magnificence. Consume to your heart's content. And that's it. I'm done talking. I'm sorry. Goodbye. Goodbye.